فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين جاءوا بالإفك عصبة منكم لا تحسبوه شرا لكم بل هو خير لكم لكل امرئ منهم ما اكتسب من الإثم والذي تولى كبره منهم له عذاب عظيم صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات بيجي محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As you've been following along with me, these verses of Surat al Noor, and we've been doing the tafsir of them. It's been very interesting from the very beginning. The concept or the concepts which have been discussed thus far. Here in verse number 11, we reach the famous incident known as Ifk. And those of you who have studied the history and have read through the pages of history are sort of aware of what the incident of Ifk was all about. But this is the ayat which was revealed when that incident took place. We'll go over the riwayat pertaining to this incident. Obviously, we won't go in details of the historical facts of what had happened, but we will just mention and derive the lessons that we can from this incident, because our job over here is not to dwell into the historical events of these verses of Quran, rather to learn and derive lessons for our daily lives. The ayat that I recited, ayat number 11, says, "Indeed, those who come with a falsehood are a group from among yourselves. Do not suppose it is a bad thing for you." It's not such a bad thing if they're bringing some falsehood towards you. No, it is for your own good. Each man among them bears the onus for his share in the sin. And as for him who assumed this major burden from among them, there is a great punishment for him. Now, the word if means tendency from truth to falsehood, linguistically speaking. Slandering is also, in a way, veiling the truth and promoting falsehood. That is also referred to as if. The context of revelation, as I mentioned before, the incident that took place, is that some commentators mention the following as the context of revelation for this particular verse. It says the Prophet would choose one of his wives whenever he was traveling on a journey. And so for every journey that he went to, obviously he couldn't take all of his wives together. There were many wars that he went to, or any other occasions that he traveled. So there would be a draw, which one of the wives would get to go. And that was a fair way of choosing which one got to go with Prophet. And therefore, obviously, it would be very difficult for him to bring all of his family along. In the Battle of Bani Mustalaq, he took, one of his wives, daughter of first Caliph, Aisha, with him. When the battle ended, people returned back to Medina. But, Prophet's wife was left behind due to either, she was busy with in the restroom or something they mentioned, or she had lost a necklace and she was looking for it. And in the meantime, the caravan moved along, and so they left her behind. One of the companions of the Prophet, who was also left behind, who accompanied Aisha until they reached the caravan, some people slandered both the wife of the Prophet and as well as that man for a wrongdoing. When this news reached Prophet, he became upset, and his wife went to her father's house until the verse was revealed. What was the verse that was revealed? This verse, right? "Indeed, those who come with a falsehood and are a group among yourselves, do not suppose it a bad thing." So they're bringing a falsehood in regards to your wife. Do not consider that to be a bad thing. They're only doing this to show their real face. Now, it is very difficult, if you take this context of revelation, to understand that how someone would leave behind someone of that important. You and I imagine, obviously there's no resemblance to us and Prophet, but imagine if you're traveling somewhere, and even if it's a big caravan, I go for Hajj almost every year, and we have 50, sometimes we have 80 people with us, so we make sure that everybody is with us. And with the millions of people around, it's very difficult to keep an eye on everyone. But important people you really don't forget, especially that too be your wife. and Prophet's wife for that matter. So it's very difficult to understand and to comprehend that how is it possible for a Prophet to not ask anyone, where's my wife? What happened to her? Why is she not over here? Obviously, when you're traveling, when you're leaving, you make sure that you have everyone with you. Your children are there, your family members are there, everyone who's responsible for you, or they're depending upon you, or they're dependents of you, you look forward to, and you ask other people if they are gone missing. So it's very improbable to take this tafsir and take this context of revelation that this ayat was revealed in regards to Hazrat Aisha. No, it was not revealed in regards to this wife of Rasulullah. Rather, it was revealed to Prophet in regards to some other wife pertaining where these two wives of Rasulullah were involved. One of them being Aisha and second one being Hafsa, daughter of Umar. Both of them were involved in it. What is the other tafsir that they mentioned? Some commentators, especially the writers of Tafsir Atib al-Bayan and many other commentators, after having established that how is it possible for you to just forget about your wife on the way and not worry about her being accompanying you in this caravan when you have gone for a battle. You look forward to these people. So it's very difficult to understand that this could be the revelation of, or the context of revelation. Rather, they mention through authentic ahadith and quote that this verse was revealed in regards to Mariya Qibtiyah. Mariya Qibtiyah was one of the wives of Rasulullah who bore him a child as well by the name of Ibrahim. Obviously, Ibrahim died in his infancy. He was very young. He was only 18 months old when he died. None of Prophet's kids survived more than that, and therefore none of his sons rather survived more than that. And that was one of the reasons why the kuffar and the mushrikeen at that time were calling him to be abtar, the one whose tail's cut off, the one who does not have any legacy, the one who will not be able to, or his message will die because he does not have any male kids. And therefore they say, we don't really need to have any propaganda against Prophet. Why? Because his legacy will die as it is. He doesn't have any male kids. But then Allah had His promise when He said, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى, that indeed Prophet will give you something that will satisfy you. And when He revealed the surah, إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ إِنَّا شَانِئَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ, that was the prophecy and that was the news that was being given to Prophet, that don't worry about these people calling you Abtar. No, you're not Abtar. Rather, we have given you someone in the name of Fatima al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha. And through her progeny, this religion of yours and this message of yours will continue. So, this ayat was revealed when Mariya Qibtiyah, who was obviously Prophet's wife, gave birth to son Ibrahim, who died in infancy. When obviously you lose a son, you cry, you weep. Obviously it's someone who you're attached to, regardless of their age. Prophet wept and Prophet was crying. These two wives of Prophet, they come to Prophet and say, why are you crying? Ibrahim was not your son. Rather, he was son of another man who committed this indecent act, which we've been discussing from the very first ayah of this surah, Surah Noor, with Mariya, na'udhu billah. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah. That those who bring this false news to you, slandering someone or accusing someone of having committed this indecent act, don't think that there's something bad in it for you. No, there's actually good in it for you. It actually shows the face of who's right and who's not. And so therefore we see that this context of revelation makes a little bit more sense than the previous context of revelation. For various reasons that I mentioned before, that how is it possible for Prophet to forget about his own wife that he left when he went for war or something. So there are debates over the account of two stories being used as the context of revelation. Again, as I said, we won't go into the discussion as we're only trying to derive messages from these verses. In the incident of Ifk, regardless of the fact that which story you take, but this incident of Ifk did take place, either one or the other story. So this ayat was revealed, as it is there in Quran. Therefore, we see that there are few concealed sins that are being discussed over here. One is lying. Second is having ill thoughts about a fellow mu'min. Third, torture of a mu'min. Fourth, slandering. Fifth, humiliating. 6, annoying the Prophet. 7, weakening the chastity of the family of the Prophet and the spread of rumors about them. These are a few things that we can derive from these few ayat that are recited. So the messages that we learn: those who do not fear Allah won't spare even the Prophet's wife and even the Prophet's family when it comes to slandering. So when it comes to those who do not have any fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they'll go ahead and even slander the most immaculate of the personalities, such as the wives of the Prophet. It says, Ja'uka bil if. Those who make and spread rumors do not do so with a plot and plan from before. We see that all the time. A lot of events that are happening. Some of people who are very, very, as we call in Farsi or Urdu, Sada, very shallow in their thinking. They see, what's happening in Syria, what's happening in Iraq, and they look at the immediate reason for it, and they say, well, this is the reason behind it. No, there's a plot and there's a plan behind it, and with all of those plannings, this thing has been executed. It's not something which just happened overnight. Rather, it's been planned for quite some time. So those who make and spread rumors do so with a plot and plan from before. The word usba in this particular ayah, which means organized prejudice group, which has a proper plan. Today in the world, we see the same planning of some powerful nations who are trying to mislead everyone into believing the falsehood. They want you to believe whatever they show in the media. By that, they want to take your attentions away from it. There are rumors about the beliefs of the practices of the Shia that are coming about as well. So we see that, these recent developments that are happening in Iraq. Now a lot of things are being said in regards to the Shia and the beliefs of the Shia. That, it is okay to kill them. Why? Because they're kafir. The Takfiri group are calling them kafir. So this is and it's been happening in Pakistan for quite some time. So we've seen that it's been happening in Pakistan for many, many years. Why? Because they're kafir, so it's, you have the license to go ahead and kill. Does Quran say if someone is declared as a kafir, you should go ahead and kill them? So there's so many kafirs outside of the realm of Islam, you do not go around killing them. It's not just how Islam gives us this message. So nonetheless, how do you prove Shias to be kafir? We recited the ayat of Surah Nisa the other day to prove how someone who says salam to you, or the one who's, reciting the shahadatain, you do not consider them to be kafir. But we look at it, some of the rumors that have been spread in regards to the beliefs of Shia and the practices is the Shia believe in a different Quran. That's one thing. So you hear that a lot, and I don't know if you've come across someone debating that they believe in a different Quran. They curse the noble companions of the Prophet, and those who don't are doing taqiyya. So either they're cursing, and if they're not cursing, they're doing taqiyya, they're doing dissimulation, and that's the reason they're not cursing. Third, they curse some of the wives of Rasulullah. Fourth, they have created many innovations in Islam for which they are labeled kafir. Some will say, let's focus on similarities. Forget about the differences that we have between different faiths in Islam, or different sects rather in Islam. There's only one faith. There are different sects in Islam. Let's forget about the differences and only focus on the common grounds. That's a good thing. But, we must address, unfortunately, these differences, because you can't overlook things which are pure lies that are associated with you. This ayat is also talking about the same concept, that these are the lies that are associated with them, and then they become rumors, and then they become something of a common knowledge, and this is what you associate with these individuals. So we look at who says Shias have a different Quran. In fact, many of the Qurans in our houses and in our masajid and in our Imam Bargas are printed in Saudi Arabia. If you look at it in the first page it says where it was printed. It was printed by Khadim al-Harman and Sharifan, and it was printed in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Many of the Qurans you pick up over here, you will see that written in that. The only difference is that Shia consider Bismillah to be part of every surah. Whereas our brothers in Ahl Sunnah, they do not believe that Bismillah is part of every surah except Surah Fatiha. But our belief is that no, Bismillah is part of every surah. That is the only difference that we have in our Quran, or in the Quran as it is. So many of the Qurans that you see over here are also printed in many of the non-Shia countries. So you'll find fake Qurans associated with Shia having 40 chapters in it, which include different supplications which we recite on regular basis. You'll find Dua Kumail in there, you'll find Joshan al-Kabir in there, you'll find other du'as that have been taught to us by our Masumeen, part of this 40 juz Quran, and it will be associated with the Shias. Now this is a misconception. What we need to do, we need to bring this into the knowledge of our fellow brothers and tell them, look, Don't look at us with the eye of prejudice that, if you heard someone, imam or someone saying that, Shias have 40 Qur'an, so I'm going to believe in it. No, go ahead and do your research. Allah has given you intellect. So even when our imams, when they were teaching us these du'as, who have taught us all of these du'as that we recite du'a iftitah. We recite, Dua Kumail on Thursday nights. We recite Dua Joshul Kabir, during the Shabhai Qadr. So with these different du'as, there's a pattern in these du'as. And Imams and Masumin were very careful when they were teaching these du'as to us. Why? They did not begin their du'as with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. There was a reason behind it. We recited the hadith the other day, any action that begins without the name of Allah is abtar, will not incomplete. Then why is it that Masumeen are not beginning their dua? None of these duas that we recite. Dua iftitah we recite. How does it begin? Allahumma inni aftatihu thana'a bihamdik. Dua kumail that we recite. It also begins with Allahumma. Other du'as that we recite, none of them begin with Bismillah. We have added Bismillah in front of it because we want to start in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that's not how Imam taught us. The reason was so that no one tomorrow goes ahead and makes this to be part of Quran. They did not want to use the word Bismillah for the sake of similarity with the verses and the ayat and the chapters of Quran. Instead, they used Allahumma. In the name of Allah, instead of saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, they used Allahumma. Or all of our du'as begin either with Allahumma or Rabbana or any of those things. As there are many ayat in Quran which are du'as. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا أفرغ علينا. This was the pattern of du'as, and our Masumeen adopted the same exact pattern so that nobody confuses them with the chapters of Quran. Salawat Biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Second, who says Shias curse the noble companions? We differ on the criteria of nobility, but we don't curse the noble companions of Rasulullah. Let's examine some of the verses. Surah Fath, chapter 48, verse number 18 says, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ فَعَلِمَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ فَأَنزَلَ السَّكِينَةَ عَلَيْهِمْ وَأَثَابَهُمْ فَتْحًا قَرِيبًا. God is pleased with the believers for their pledging obedience to you under the tree. He knew whatever was in their hearts. Thus He granted them confidence and rewarded them with an immediate victory. As it is evident that this verse, Allah praises those companions who gave allegiance at the event of Bayt al-Ridwan tahta al-Shajara, under the tree. Companions such as Abdullah ibn Ubay, who were companions earlier, who later turned out to be the enemy of Islam, are not included in this verse. The Shia school is also meticulous in discerning between faithful and the hypocritical person who interacted with the Prophet. Quran points it out. Quran is our criteria, not our own judgments. What does it say? In Surah Tawbah, verse number 101. وَمِمَّنْ حَوْلَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ مُنَافِقُونَ وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ مَرَدُوا عَلَى النِّفَاقِ لَا تَعْلَمُهُمْ نَحْنُ نَعْلَمُهُمْ سَنُعَذِّبُهُمْ مَرَّتَيْنِ ثُمَّ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَذَابٍ عَظِيمٍ. Who is this in this regards to? This is the ayat of Quran, Surah Tawbah 101, in regards to certain people who lived in the time of Prophet. Now you want to give them a title of companion? Go ahead. But they are definitely not noble companions. What does it say? It says some of the desert-dwelling Arabs around you are hypocrites, as are some of the inhabitants of Medina. Not everyone in Medina is considered to be a noble prophet of Rasulullah, according to this ayah. They are persisting in their hypocrisies. You do not know them, but we know them well, and we will punish them twice over. They will be brought to the great torment on the day of judgment. Again, these are all the ayat of Quran. So the criteria of nobility is different. Whereas respect of the companions is ala aini warasi. It is something which every Shia must adhere to and respect these companions. Furthermore, there were companions about whom Allah said in Surah Jumu'ah, we recited today in Salatul Jumu'ah, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا تِجَارَةً أَوْ لَهْوًا فَضُّوا إِلَيْهَا وَتَرَكُوكَ قَائِمًا. When they see some merchandise or some sport, they rush towards it and leave you alone standing. Imagine I'm leading Jummah prayer over here, and someone calls out, selling something outside a vendor, and everybody leaves. Now, there's no resemblance between me and Prophet, but we're resembling in a sense that we understand the example. How would I, a person of my stature, would feel that, these people stranded me? And then how would Prophet? Prophet felt, and Allah revealed the ayah. These people should not be considered or part of the noble companions of Rasulullah. Yeah, they might be companions because according to the criteria they got to see you, but they're definitely not noble companions. This rushing away from the Prophet took place when he was delivering the Friday sermon in his mosque. Also, there were those that wanted to eradicate the Prophet while he was returning from Tabuk, and also when he was returning from Hijjatul Wada. There were people who were plotting to kill Prophet. Do you go ahead and call them to be the companions of Rasulullah? You might call them companions, but you can never consider them to be the noble companions of Rasulullah. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So from this we understand that yes, Shias, they don't have a different Quran, first of all. Secondly, they don't curse the noble companions of Rasulullah. In fact, it is incumbent upon you to go pay respect to these companions of Rasulullah. And then, they say, well, they curse some of the wives of Rasulullah as well. Again, the concept of cursing is something which has to be eradicated, which has to be removed. Cursing itself is not a good thing, and you do curse to anyone. So that needs to be removed. Yes, we have views about certain wives of Rasulullah, whom Quran also holds views about. I won't go into the details, I'll just mention to you a few verses. For example, in Surah Ahzab, it talks about wives of the Prophet. If anyone among you commits indecency, her torment will be double. Then in Surah chapter number 62, it says, "In tatuba ilallahi faqad sagat qulubukuma." Would that of you too, the wives of the Prophet, had turned to God in repentance, your hearts have sinned. This is again talking about some of the wives of Rasulullah. So we see that we only criticize these wives that Islam or that Quran is criticizing, but again using the curse word or any of those words which would not be appropriate for any individual should not be used at all. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Messages, going back to the messages that we learned. Beware of those who spread rumors amongst yourself. So there are people amongst yourself who will be spreading these rumors. Sometimes we can benefit from the unpleasant incidents. The face of hypocrites become apparent. Right away, there are many ways of finding out who's hypocrite and who's not. And this was one of the incidents which took place. And by seeing the opposition and by seeing those people who brought these allegations, you were able to point out those who were hypocrites. Giving hope to mu'mineen at times of despair in front of cunning plots and slanders is actually obligatory. You got to give them hope. You got to tell them, no, this will be all right. Allah is watching over us. Don't worry about it. Punishments set by Allah are just and appropriate. So do not call them to be inappropriate and do not question against them. You're considered criminal and sinner only when you do something knowingly and intentionally. If you've done something by mistake, even the law of the land does not consider you to be a criminal and a sinner. As mentioned earlier, the incident of ifk. There are few concealed sins that are hiding in it. Lying, having ill thoughts about a fellow mu'min, torture of a mu'min, slandering, humiliating, annoying the Prophet, and weakening the chastity of his family and the spread of rumors about them. All of these can be achieved through one organ in our body. You do not need all of your body to commit all of these sins that I mentioned. All of these sins can be committed with one organ of our body, and that is our tongue. Similarly, all of these can be avoided if we can control the same exact organ. Same exact organ can be the cause of all of these sins, and the same exact organ can be utilized in a manner where you never commit any of these indecencies. If I can ask all of you to move a little bit forward with the loud salawat. Don't sit by the door. Don't sit by the door. Another loud salawat, please. Our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Inna akthara khataya ibn Adam fi lisanihi." He said, indeed, majority of the shortcomings of insan are through his tongue. Akthara khataya. He did not say, best or the worst or whatever. He said, akthar. The majority takes place through this tongue. This little piece that is in our mouth. But look at the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us protectors surrounding this tongue of ours. There are teeth that are blocking it, that are protecting it from being let loose. So make sure that you keep a cover on it. Scholars dedicated whole section of Ilm al-Akhlaq by the name of vices of tongue. Mullah Faid Kashani in Mahajjatul Bayda, Mullah Naraqi in Jam al-Sa'adat, just to name a few books. Fifth Imam said, Inna hadha al-lisan miftahu kulli khayrin wa sharrin فَيَنْبَغِي لِلْمُؤْمِنِ أَنْ يَخْتِمَ عَلَى لِسَانِهِ كَمَا يَخْتِمُ عَلَى ذَهَبِهِ وَفِضَّتِهِ. Again, we learn that in this particular month of Ramadan, if we can start practicing these things, because as it is, we keep on mentioning, we are geared up a little bit because of the blessings of Ramadan. We are, as it is, ready to an extent because of the blessings of Ramadan. We're able to, survive 18 hours of abstention from food and drink and many other things. And that goes along with lying and all the other things that are associated. So we're able to do that for 18 hours. The rest 6 hours you may be sleeping or whatever. So there goes your 24 hours right there. If you can practice that for a whole month, because we're already ready to do so, then it becomes a habit. That's why you see in the riwayat, things that are mentioned, the amal that are mentioned, they're always in numbers. Do this for 40 days. Do this 70 times. Read this 70 times. Read this 100 times. Read this 1,000 times. Why? So that it becomes a habit of yours and you start doing it involuntarily. Sometimes doing these ibadat involuntarily might not have any reward, but at least making a habit of doing such a thing. So what did Imam say? He said, the tongue is surely the key to every good and evil. You should seal your tongues as you seal your wealth, your goods, your gold, your silver. You know how you protect it? Don't let it be in the sight of strangers. You should do the same thing to this tongue. Protect it so that it is not given in the hands of those who are using it for wrong purposes. Therefore, we must be very careful when it comes to dealing with tongue. We must keep it sealed inside the mouth, lest it falls in the hands of strangers. Last hadith in this regard, as I'm running out of my time, by our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, يُعَذِّبُ اللَّهُ اللِّسَانَ بِعَذَابٍ لَا يُعَذِّبُ بِهِ شَيْئًا مِنَ الْجَوَارِحِ. Allah will inflict the tongue with the torment like no other organ. So not only that hopefully we don't end up in that hell, but not only that our bodies, but every single body part will be tasting the chastisement of the hell. It says no part of the body will be tormented like this organ. The tongue will ask, oh Allah, why would you do so? It will be told, one word from you is spread from east to west on the earth, and because of that sacred blood was shed. One thing you said, killing these people is allowed. They're kafir. Go ahead and shed the blood. Right away it spreads like that, and you give the license to people to kill. It says, one word from you spread from east to west on the earth, and because of that sacred blood was shed, and respected wealth was destroyed, and prestigious and honorable was dishonored. In Islam, these three things are kept very high, made wajib to be respected. Honor, wealth, and the blood. Obviously, the insan, uski jaan, the soul of mankind, of any individual. In terminology, they are known as mawdu'atun muhimma. And according to the hadith of Prophet, through this tongue, all three of them are transgressed by being spread from east to west. So we look at this concept as to how we can go ahead and control this tongue of ours, especially in this month of Ramadan. We see that this tongue could be utilized for good things as well. There's so many things in this month, the adhkar that could be read, that could be said. And when we remember the martyrs of Karbala as well, we look at, the kalam of the martyrs of Karbala. Every single word, if we go ahead and study that, that becomes, a guide for mankind. Just one word that Hazrat Qasim had said on the eve of, Ashur. When Imam was naming everyone, he said, will I be among those martyrs as well? Imam said, he wanted to test him. Do you want to be among them or not? He said, then I asked him, how do you look at this shahada? What did he reply by saying? Ahla min al-asal. It is sweeter than honey to me. That sort of concept needs to be developed, especially in this month of Ramadan, especially in our kids, so that it becomes the path of salvation for them. and it serves them best both in this world and in the hereafter. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to be able to follow these commands that we learn from Quran and in the kalam of Ma'asumin alayhi salatu wasalam. O Allah, hasten the zuhur of our weighted Imam, make us among the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Akhiru da'wana, and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Ahlul Bayt TV, the holy household for every household.